welcome back to my channel. This is the HO2 Production. So we're going to be doing another article about Spider-Man and possibly have him do the continuation of the trilogy. And yeah, this is really interesting. Spider-Man will be lent back to Marvel after third movie confirms Sony. And we don't know what this title meant by being lent back to Marvel. I'm guessing it's going to be having him stay in the MCU since Disney owns Marvel. So it kind of makes sense in sort of way, but at the same time, it would have been cool if they actually made a Spider-Man and Venom movie, which has already been confirmed a while back. Now, even though I did not cover the story, but just know that everything that they have plans for the future web slinger and Venom crossing each other, well, you get the picture. But yeah, let's get to this article. With a title like Spider-Man No Way Home, fans aren't sure when the upcoming threequel will leave Spidey by the time the credits roll. Interestingly enough, leading up to the film, the same could be said for Tom Holland and his future as web slinger under Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. Now, I will be honest here, I think Tom Holland is going to end up continuing to play Peter Parker. And to me, he's the perfect fit for the character. He's like the ultimate Spider-Man version and the 1960s version of Peter Parker based on the comics and the 1960s TV show, to be honest with you, based on his characters being portrayed in 3 Spider-Man films. Like, you can tell he belongs to the MCU. And not too long ago, there was a photo of him coming out with the paparazzi crying and doing this to represent his Spider-Man symbols in tears after he just saw his movie. I'm guessing it's because he was happy that the film turned out great. I mean, it comes out this Friday, so I will be reviewing this movie very soon, so make sure you guys be on the lookout, because something tells me it's going to be a good time watching this film and reviewing it at the same time. And I must remind y'all that I do have the Fire Stick, so there's a possibility that this film could end up coming out because I want to see it myself. I love Spider-Man, and I think this would be an interesting film. That questionable future began to look a little certain after, well, I'm not going to say the threequel because it's hard for me to say it. Well, I'm just going to say the threequel ticket sales crashed theater sites, followed by Spider-Man producer Pascal talking about a future Spider-Man 4 and potentially a new Spider-Man trilogy. Now, just ahead of anticipated film release, fans are getting a clear picture of Sony and Marvel's Spidey deal and where they see Tom Holland's Spider-Man next. You know, Spider-Man 4, I mean, we can already assume that Sam Raimi is going to end up returning to film Spider-Man 4 if Tom, you know what? I think now that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in Spider-Man No Way Home, and I think it's safe to say they're going to end up making Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire in it. And I would have loved to see where Peter and Mary Jane's relationship goes right after the third film, even though the third Sam Raimi film was god-awful. It was just terrible. Even he admitted himself that he did not do a better job of directing this movie because the writing of this film was all over the place and I couldn't take it seriously. And that's why I gave up on the trilogy itself. Thankfully, you have MCU Spider-Man, which felt perfect and felt right. So, if Tom Holland were to do more Spider-Man movies and Sam Raimi were to come back and make more Spider-Man films with Tom Holland in it, I think for the most part, it would have worked. That is what I believe. During the Spider-Man No Way Home Los Angeles premiere, Sony Pictures chair Todd Roman explains to comicbook.com that Spidey is set to return to the MCU, saying it's reciprocal. That's how, okay. This grammar is a bit off to me. That's why I don't like reading stuff like this. But I think it's clear to me that Spider-Man is part of the MCU now. He's been part of the MCU since his debut in Captain America Civil War. And ever since then, he's been making 3 of his own movies now. So I think it's been confirmed by Sony that if Sam Raimi were to come back to do Spider-Man 4, yeah, I've already said what I need to say. The statement about the Lent back confirms what fans already expected, which was one more appearance from Spider-Man in the MCU after No Way Home. The question of course is just when and where. Fortunately, that's not all. For those hoping for more Holland in the future, Rothman sounded optimistic in referring to Sony and Marvel's terrific working relationship, with a mutual hoping that would continue. I'll be honest with okay, let me just say this though. Sony and Marvel have this on and off again relationship when it comes to Spider-Man. They don't know whether they should keep it or take it away. So for that case, I would say Marvel should keep Spider-Man since he is part of the MCU now. And I think the way Sony makes their movies, especially Venom, although I liked the second movie for the most part, and I think if you were to have Tom Holland and Sony Spider-Man with Venom clashing against one another, I would think that wouldn't work, because Sony likes their films to be dark and gritty. But I think for the most part, him having Venom in the MCU, if they could just somehow give him more dark and brutal and give him that iconic symbol on his symbiote costumes, I would hope that they could just somehow do it right, which I know they will. While that potential news trilogy seemingly highs on No Way Home and the hopeful continuation of Sony and Marvel's terrific working relationship, things are looking up in the terms of more Holland in the MCU. In the meantime, the question of the hour is which project Holland will be lent back for now. So it's already been confirmed that Sony and Marvel are going to continue to have Spider-Man stay in the MCU, and not to mention Spider-Man being lent back to the MCU now because that's where he belongs. And Tom Holland just confirmed that he will continue to play Spider-Man of, I think, a few other Spider-Man projects. But I would love for him to, you know, stay and do the Spider-Man versus Venom movie because it's been confirmed already. So there's hopeful that things are looking very different for Tom Holland in the MCU. So I need y'all to comment down below. What are your thoughts on this? If there are some things that I'm missing that I'm not understanding, please let me know in the comments. I'm open to criticism. Just let me know, and I'll see you in my next content.